All right. So I've been thinking about this for 2 weeks now, and I should have done this yesterday, but I was kind of a little lazy yesterday because I was resting. Hopefully, I'm not too close to the mic, so I just sit back just a little bit. And anyway, going back to Audri Dubois, I think that's how you say her last name. Correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong. But she is the original Yellow Ranger, the pilot Yellow Ranger for people who don't know. But I think that's well known now that she was the pilot Yellow Ranger who played Trini Kwan. Well, why I'm bringing her up today is the fact of I was thinking about the Scorpina character, and I said to myself, I said, man, she would have worked as a great Scorpina character. And I might ruffle some feathers here. I wish she would have came back. I don't know. I think they had some little contract issues and stuff like that. But I was looking at some of her videos when she was talking about martial arts and stuff. And what really got me to really pay attention to her a little bit more about that was when I had saw that episode about Tommy. And I'm not going to go into detail about it. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. But I'm not going to talk about it here. But anyway, I was listening to her talk. And then I went back and rewatched. And it's funny because I watched a pilot episode many years ago when it was on TV back in, I want to say, 99. But I was, 9 years old when that came out. So that kind of went, and that just kind of was washed away apparently. Then I watched it again, I want to say it was probably back in 2017, 2016. Probably a little earlier than that, but I don't remember. And that was the last time I really watched it until recently. And I'm like, wait a minute. They never concluded the Scorpina character. And from what I remember, they only had Scorpina in the episodes of Mighty Morphin from till the footage ran out. And I'm not going to talk like I know the business, 'cause I don't. But I want to say this, like, it would have been crazy because of her martial arts experience and this particular character. And if Saban would have just, and by this point, Saban could have been paying his actors. But I'm gonna make a disclaimer here though when I say this. Even though Saban did what he did and treated actors, I wasn't there, so I don't know, but I've heard it from Karen Ashley's mouth in person and on YouTube or on the internet in general. I understand with the frustration. I do, and I really do. And in an alternate universe, I wish Saban would have treated and paid his actors accordingly. And especially for a show like this being different, you kind of should have. And things could have went either way. It could have went. Power Rangers could have survived, and it probably couldn't have. It could have went for 13 episodes and that would have been it. Matter of fact, let's put it this way. The 2010 reboot when they did, or the, I call it the comic book or whatever. This is when the Disney decided to remix it into that whatever we had got. I could have seen it ended like in 1993. It could have ended just like that and disappeared, never came back. It could have happened like that, but it didn't. And I understand Saban. I don't disagree with him with this one where he didn't pay the actors to it at the beginning because you didn't know where it was going. Like the first half of that season, I could see, okay, you don't know where it's really going, so you don't want to just pay everybody handsomely at that point. And I know that's going to ruffle some feathers when I say this. And then once it got into farther in production, and then they could have went on ahead and just had done that and started paying the actors as they should pay them, But the way things turned out, you had Trini, and then she left, and then Zach left, and Adam came, and then you had Aisha and Rocky. I guess it all worked out at the end of the day. It kind of did. Things happen for a reason, and we understand. And hey, who knows? Zach and Trini and Jason probably would have left anyway. Who, let's say they probably would have, And I know Trini definitely. I think she would have left. It's not Trini. Well, let me say her real name. Shoot, I'm kind of going through the internet because I can't remember her name. Tui Trang. I should know her name off the riff, But her name was kind of tough for me to say growing up, so I always call her just Tui Trang. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. I think she would have left anyway because I think she was starting to get some movie roles from what I remember hearing. Because I think she played in, if I'm not mistaken, The Crow. If I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna do some. Hang on, let me click on this. I'm just being real as like it could be. I'm not gonna sit up here and act like I know everything because I really don't. Yeah, she did. She played the Crow, City of Angels. So she definitely would have probably inspired hard. So she probably would have got some other movie roles. I think she would have. After 96 or after 95, she would have definitely. So I think she probably would have left, and Aisha probably would have stepped in. But everything happened the way it happened. But the point is, back to Audri, I think she could have really been brought back, and they could have. I think they already had. I don't know if they had the suits for Scorpina. Maybe they could have. I don't know if they could have did anything differently to the suits, because I know they did it, like for Tommy's armor. They had a new created armor for him, And for the Scorpina character, she would have been perfect because you could have Goldar, of course, and you also had a Goldar over here because they did new footage for Goldar. Then they could have had new footage from the Zoo Ranger 2 for a new Scorpina, and for Audri could have been Scorpina, and she could have been using her martial arts to battle these Rangers, and it would have been great, And she could have definitely did, I would say, all 3 seasons. They could have probably taken her character out eventually. She would have survived. I think her character would have survived and would have got hit with the Z-Wave. I think that's how it would have happened. Because I don't even think Scorpina character, they don't even know where she went. So she never was she destroyed by the Z-Wave? What happened, But for her, I think that it would have been perfect to have Audri playing that particular character, and just imagine she would have been popular. She would have been even more popular, and she, I think it would have really fit her, and I don't know why she fits that character. Now that once I look at her, like, yeah, she would have been perfect as a Scorpina. Yeah, she was technically cast as the original Yellow Ranger, but they could have brought her back and actually had brought her in more as Scorpina, So that would have been a nice little touch. Don't know where I'm going with this show. I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. What's done is done, but that would have been an awesome put together seeing Audri, and her legacy will always live on, as the original Yellow Ranger, but in the pilot episode. But I would have loved to see that her legacy of really being a kick butt villain. Just imagine she like being that female henchman that would have been like literally going toe to toe like with the Power Rangers. Now you had Goldar with Tommy most of the time, or Jason or Tommy, and then with the other Rangers, but just having Scorpina, his niece, just being a threat and tearing them Rangers up when time be, really giving us some cool fights, but like the original did anyway. But we would have had something more tangible, I guess you could say. But what do you think? Maybe people are gonna disagree with this video. People are gonna agree. It is what it is. Oh, and one more thing about the whole Audri being Scorpina. Just imagine Goldar saying, "Okay, I'm tired of you, Green or White Ranger. I'm gonna get my niece to handle you." And just imagine Jason David Frank versus Audri Dubois fight scenes. Crazy. That would have been really crazy. And just the rest of them too. I don't want to leave everybody else out, but just imagine the fight scenes we could have gotten out of all of them. All right, that's it. I just wanted to throw that in there. All right, I'll talk to you guys later.